Director of Communications in the school district. Before I hand things over to Kat and get started, I just wanted to let folks know that this microphone that is going around is not being amplified through the room. It's just for the live stream on YouTube, just so there's no confusion. But we'll make sure we yell at you. So, thank you.
Do we have to use it?
I'm going to come around and pester you to do so.
Thank you for coming. Welcome, everyone. I'm Catherine Gallagher, Superintendent for Lamoille North. This is a budget information meeting for our revised vote. We are framing this conversation a little differently. We have a panel of some of our board members, starting at the far left, Stephanie Sweet, Mark Stebbins, Mark Nielsen, Katie Orost, Bart Bazzaio. We also have our business manager, Deb Clark, here. And this format is essentially a question and answer format. I know that we've heard a lot of questions and answers being given across our communities through social media. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming and getting answers directly from the people who can answer them. And again, Lois, hello, it's very nice to see you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for coming. So I think we want to make this as simple as possible, and so I'm going to start this meeting by posing 2 questions to our business manager, and then explanations will follow. The 2 questions are these. What is the most expensive option for our taxpayers and why? And what is the least expensive option for our taxpayers and why? So let's start with what the most expensive option might be, Deb.
The most expensive option is to go into the next year without a budget, to get to July 1 without an approved budget. The reason why is the tax commissioner will impose a dollar tax on the district. Right now, with a revised budget, it's 70 cents. If the tax commissioner imposes, it goes up to $1. And can you repeat the second part?
The second question would be, now that we all know the secondary budget has passed, that ship has sailed, it is passed. What is the least expensive option going forward now for our taxpayers?
So the least expensive option right now is to pass an elementary school budget. The reason being, our elementary school budget is the least expensive from a tax perspective. It will blend with the secondary, the high school, middle school, and bring that rate down, in a nutshell.
Okay. What we would do now is open this up for questions. And if you have a question, if you could introduce yourselves, that would be wonderful.
I guess God hates a coward. Thank you. I really gotta go like this thing?
Yeah.
Anyways, my name's Michael Patch. I'm from Johnson. What bothers me is a couple things. I just explained this to her in here. We elected a man, or woman, I don't care, to represent Vermont. He's a governor. The governor said 3 to 5%. He turned around and boycotted it, didn't sign it. This is what you got to go back. So just if you live in Johnson, if this goes through, this is just Johnson. And I got to say this isn't about, and I got to make this clear, this isn't anti-teachers, anti-school, anti-principals, any of this stuff. This is about how much people can afford. So how much can we afford to keep going? So Johnson right now, I was just talking to one of the selectmen before I got here, if this goes through what they have proposed, they've got the same numbers you are, and I had them run all these numbers to make sure I was telling you the truth, and what our town tax is going up, Johnson's going to see like 24 to 26. They're pretty much right on top. So if you've got a $10,000 tax bill, you know what that is? I bet you guys can do the math. So just think, this is a slope. That train is headed down it. If this is this year, and this is my personal opinion, we have to stop it. I don't care how we have to pay for this. I think it has to go back to the legislature, like they have said, and find a different way to fund this. Because doing it on taxes ain't cutting it. We are ranked 3rd all over the news for taxes in the United States. 3rd. Little Vermont, 3rd in taxes. New York beat us and Hawaii. Really? We're going to keep this going? And I understand. It's a lot of cost. You guys deal with a lot of problems. Heard them, seen them, heard the teacher stories. Not going down that road. I'm just saying we're talking living here and staying here. So all these people got all these properties. Now, town meeting in Johnson, 4 came and said, I don't know if we can afford to live here anymore. They're retired. And I can tell you, this is tough, guys. And you guys are tough. You got your own. But I'm old enough, and some of you guys are. I remember sitting in a building right over there when we went from 5,000 to 6,500. on kids. And I remember a gentleman had a farm out here, said the same thing. Very popular man. Said, how much is this going to keep going? That's back when it was $5,000 and $6,500 a child. And look what we got now, guys. This thing is almost a whale of itself that cannot be stopped. It's in the ocean and just swimming. There's got to be, and I'm not that person, there's got to be somebody that can come up with a way. We're not reinventing the wheel to keep this thing going. But we have to cut. It's not that you want to, we have to. And I mean, because it's just going to get worse. Instead of people being civil, it's going to get worse. In my mind. You're seeing it in the White House, you're seeing it. We got to get along and come together. And they say it's going to be worse if we don't pass this through. Well, I did not vote for this union. I did not. I wanted to be able so we could control it in Johnson. Johnson came up with a lot of their own stuff over the years. We did our own gym project. Town got together to help them. This is way too big. That's why you guys are doing this. You're all college educated. But there's got to be a way, if we say no, and I am telling you, which I just told her, I am going to vote no. I tell everybody to vote no, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm hoping it goes back. If we have to pay more, anything and cost anything, it's going to cost us some. Say no. Take it back to the legislature, like all the other towns are saying no, and here you go. A lot of people don't understand. They wish they could have. You know how many people told me that they wish they'd have said no on the one we're in right now, but they didn't understand it. A lot of people don't understand. They're working for a living. They come home. They got the kids. They're doing this. They're doing that. I understand. It's all part of life. But now we're on that slope going down. What's it going to be next year? What's it going to be? You guys can't tell. You don't know. And if the state and the feds mandate it, let them find a way to pay for it. Not often taxes anymore, because we just can't keep going. And I know I'm a little rough around the edges. I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion, 2 cents, and that's what it's worth. There you go.
Thank you, Mike. I just want to remind people that I think we all agree that something has to happen. We do. And we keep hearing that something will happen. If nothing happens between now and the end of next year, I just want people to understand that without a budget for next year, the taxes will be even higher than they would be if a budget was passed. That's neither here nor there. It's what we just heard from our business manager. But I do have one question that just came to me before we started the meeting. Could you talk a little bit about income sensitivity? I don't know if anybody in this room, if that applies to anybody, but could you talk a little bit about that, Deb?
Sure. I think this will be picking me up. Is this picking me up? Can you tell? Okay. So income sensitivity is basically, there's 2 ways to pay education tax, either off property tax or off income sensitivity. What it is, and for 2025, any households with 128,000 or less coming out of their 23 taxes, which were due today, may be eligible to pay their education tax off their income. There's a slide in the packet that'll show you, based on income bracket, what your tax might be, your education tax. It shows up as a credit on your property tax bill. So you file your taxes, we all have to do it, whether we qualify or not, write our household income form. The Department of Taxes will calculate whether you're eligible to receive a education property tax credit, and it'll show up on your property tax bill. So you get a reduction on your bill. 69% of households in the modified unified districts pay based on income.
Hello, my name is Peggy Williams. I'm from Johnson. I have a simple question and then a simple request. On page 2 in the revised budget, it says 48,000 savings at Johnson through teacher attrition. I'm curious if that is actually the loss of teachers or a difference in salary between people who left and some people who were hired. Are we actually losing positions?
Do you want to take that, Katie?
Yeah, or David, either. Go ahead.
Hi. I have one more.
Hi, I'm David Manning. I'm the principal at Johnson Elementary School. So we have 3 teachers retiring, and some of them have been hired, some are still in the process, but the projections are that the people coming on board will make less money than the people retiring.
Salary savings.
Yes.
Then a lot of what's in the packet here talks about the changes you made from the budget that was proposed most recently. I have not been able to digest all of this since arriving. So I'd love it if someone could just, in a simple way, maybe identify 5 to 10 things that are going to increase next year that are crucial to this. You're showing us numbers here on page whatever it is, revised budget by department, but what is the additional spending going to address, I guess is what I'm looking for. Maybe just 5 or 6 things that stand out. That's showing you, okay, so is it 2.2% increase? That's the change from FY24 to the new?
That's the change from the original proposed to the revised.
Okay, I'm looking for from FY24 to the new proposed.
So here.
Okay, and that's the 12%?
So that's these columns here.
Okay,
So instruction, you can see, is 80% of the change.
right,
It's going up 15%, all the instruction type costs. In that is salaries and benefits and supplies. Debt is going down. The next is administration. That's all the services coming out of the supervisory union.
so is that
And there's
mostly salaries and benefits for those people?
salaries and benefits. There's detail of what's in the supervisory union administration further into the packet.
Okay,
Because we have been asked what's in administration, and I think it's a valuable answer.
okay,
So here's, you're going to see the change in the budget.
Right.
From 24 to revised. Here's the percentage of the change.
okay,
It's mostly going into instruction, and in this administration number is a lot of additional instruction and student supports. Through our
Okay.
curriculum alignment, our student data management, our after-school programs, our early ed is all in.
that's all administration, okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
How many students participate in the after-school program, and does that include sports, or is that a separate program? Because I didn't know that you even had an after-school program. Oh, you're talking about the elementary schools. So do all the elementary schools have an after-school program?
Yes, yes, sorry. We're nodding, but
And not into the mic.
I have one other question, and then somebody else should speak too. If this gets shot down, tomorrow night, it says no, do you have a backup plan to cut this again? I've heard rumors there was one, and rumors were, as like anybody else, knowing for true, at 500 grand instead of 300, don't go over 500 grand. I did hear that from somebody it don't make a difference. Do you have a backup plan to do this, to say, okay, we didn't get it, we're gonna take $1 million off from this to try it before it goes to the state? Or are you just gonna fight the distance?
I think probably the best answer I can give you, Mike, is right now, here tonight, there is no backup plan, because what happens is after we get the results tomorrow night, which I'm gonna be sitting up here waiting for, the board then comes back into this wonderful room,
Yep.
and we talk about things, and then there's a budget committee. So basically, folks you see right here. We sit down and decide on a number. Now, that number really comes down to, and I think everybody in the room knows it, This budget that we've got, I put my name on the first one, it was a good budget, okay? There was no trips to Las Vegas, there was none of that crap, okay? I'm serious,
I know.
okay? The budget committee, I was asked a question by some of our folks that, you know, I've met with previous to this. And they said, as the floodwaters came through Johnson, did you do any budget cutting? Sure, we had plans already in the works for a track. Those are now suspended indefinitely. Probably won't happen anytime soon. And then little at a time, the budget committee started chopping away. Now, our administrators already know that when things go on, Kat Gallagher, our superintendent from our direction, she starts chipping away at things one piece at a time. All of a sudden, the budget goes down. Now we're back here again. We picked a line in the sand that said, okay, if this budget doesn't happen, the next piece that we start addressing is services to students. So now when the questions get asked about, you know, handing out the layoff slips, if you will, we've taken artificial numbers, if you will, the people that we couldn't hire, those are in this budget. Now we're going to get down to the real stuff, where the elementary schools across our district are going to be said, what can we cut now? The number that was floated to me last night was $3.1 million. Now, out of a $15 million budget, do you know what's left of the school system after that? Not much. So that's basically what's going on right now as we sit here and talk to you folks, and I'm being kind of right up front with you.
No, I like it, and I am the same way. I'd rather not say it on the street than just come and ask it. But my biggest point is, you may have a shot at this. I mean, it may not pass. And like she said, it may cost us more, but it may cost us more this time around to get this switch at the dollar to the 70 cents. But it may turn around and throw somebody into saying, we can't afford this through the taxes. This isn't personal about teachers in school. I can't get that through because a lot of people, well, that teacher, she's home. I don't care about that. That's personal stuff. I'm talking about what's good for the kids, good for the people, and good for people. And if the people can't, I explained to one guy, he turned around right at the house. He goes, I'm not going to go on a trip this year. These taxes go through, I'm going to use that money to pay my taxes. Really, guys? Is this what we're talking about? And I mean, you're looking at me like, I get this, you know, whatever, but I am serious. And people are going to move. They're going to move somewhere else. And it isn't going to be Vermont. We don't have enough people now. They can't make a living. And look at what the people make in this area. Family of 4, 50,000? Really? And then you take their taxes out of that, and they work to build these places. People bought a house, $110,000, appraisal went through, and it's $200,000. Now this taxes, what's it going to do to them? And everybody knows what's going on in Morrisville, Nation, Stowe, everybody's read what their taxes are going to. I'm just saying, if we let this go through this time, this is nothing personal, I promise. If we let this go through this time, you guys can't tell us what it's going to be next year or the year after. We could be at 100% in 4 years.
So just for the record, I guess I'll say, have you seen the legislation that Montpelier's working on right now?
I've seen 4 different drafts, and I didn't believe any of them, and I haven't seen the one that Phil's working on now. I have not.
Well, I'm not talking about the one Phil's working on. I'm talking about the one the legislature's working on.
Yes.
You've seen that bill?
I did.
You like that?
Can you be more specific, please?
There's a bill right now being worked on by the Finance Committee. They want to redo the way Vermont does their taxes. They want to restructure everything. It's 42 pages long. I've got it on my desktop. I read through it just because I wanted to see it. I was told by Dan Noyes and Company that that bill is working its way through and will change a few times already, and I'm sure it did today. Again, can't think of her name right now. The head of the Ways and Means Committee already said, oops, we're going too fast, I haven't got data, so we're going to slow this process down and take a closer look at it. I'm like, good thing, doesn't look very good, and there's a lot of people hollering about it. Now, there's also a whisper down in Montpelier that they're going to go, Senator Andy Brock is working on putting a proposal together to do totally income-based and get it totally away from property taxes. Yep, and I've already written a letter to Mr. Brock and said, I'm happy to be on that committee if you want a school board member. So that's kind of what's going on.
So if I may, so what Mark is talking about, what's happening that you're talking about, Montpelier's listening, and they're paying attention, and they are reacting. Hopefully, they react in a thoughtful, meaningful way and not just throw something out there. To go back to the 3.1 million that Mark is referring to, further in, to get to an after the common level of appraisal, and I can go into that if anyone has questions, to get to a 10% or less change in our town tax rate, just the change of 10% or less would take a $3.1 million cut in the budget. I don't think the schools could responsibly run with that kind of a cut. So yes, taxes are going up. Nobody's sitting here saying, you know, taxes don't matter. We're all feeling the pinch because, as you had said, this is a statewide issue. Montpelier is paying attention now. This is a statewide issue. Basically, in a nutshell, the state has $2.4 billion that they need to spend on education. That's right now the sitting budget for 25. They've got sales tax, they've got room and meals tax, they've got lottery money, they've got, they're hoping a couple new items coming in. At the bottom, what isn't filled by all these other items is your property tax. And that's where we're feeling a big pinch for 25. There's a big spot that isn't covered. And they are working very hard to get that covered. Passing or not passing isn't going to make them work harder or less hard because they've already heard this. On town meeting day, it was interesting, I took note, on town meeting day with the impact of those schools that passed and those budgets that passed and those budgets that didn't pass and those that hadn't been voted yet, the AOE looks at it in terms of students funded. 40% of the students in the state were funded with successful passing budgets. 40% were unfunded with actual no's, and 20 had yet to be decided. And that really got their attention, and they are working, both the legislature and the governor's office are trying to find fixes for this because they understand. We're all in this boat. All of our taxes are going up. But we still have to run schools. We have to responsibly run schools. This budget, this elementary school budget, like I said, from a tax perspective at this point in time, is the least expensive of all of our budgets. And it's reasonable. They did not add anything. There's nothing going into this budget that isn't already happening today. There's no new initiatives. These are economic pressures. And this budget, if we didn't have the common level of appraisal and we didn't have everything that was happening statewide, and I can talk about that, there's also a slide in here, would be a negative 3.8% change in the tax rate. The actual rate would go down. All the other activity, these are statewide budgets. Even though they're decided and voted on locally, they're statewide. The construction that's happening statewide is impacting us. The PCB testing that's happening statewide and not funded elsewhere is impacting us. The mental health crisis that we're in, and actually, I just read this morning, or I heard it on VPR on Friday on my drive home. We're in a mental health crisis, and our mental health structures, infrastructure is not keeping up, has actually kind of failed. So our students who are in crisis are getting taken care of in the schools and right now funded through the school budget. It was a proposal to have other state funding that usually funds mental health diverted to schools, which would lower the tax rate. If those funds could come to schools for the mental health work we're doing in our schools, that would help lower the property tax rate. It's a tough year. There's no denying it. I might have gone on a little too long.
I wonder if you could explain, you have page numbers here, but here at the end,
There's an explanation, I want to say it's like the third to last page. It's pretty much if you don't pass this budget, what happens if this revised budget won't pass? And then it has estimates of the impact. It says districts without a passed budget on July 1 are imposed an interim tax rate of $1, adjusted by town CLA. That's all true. This would create the following changes in the town rates, but it doesn't say from what. And those numbers seem a little astronomical, even in comparison with today's conditions. So maybe you could explain statistically how those were arrived at and how they relate to the passage of this budget at this time.
Sure.
So you gotta give me an apple and an orange to compare here?
Sure. So I think, I mean, you hit it on the head. If there isn't a budget on July 1, the tax department imposes $1 on the modified unified elementary school district tax rate. So what it would look like, I've got all kinds of data I'm trying to figure out. It would look like a modified unified 24 Belvedere tax rate of 70 cents, almost 71, 7085. In 25, $1 tax rate at the elementary level would look like $1.18. That's that 67.5% increase.
You went from dollar what to what?
So from 70, basically 71 cents the current year tax rate to 25 at an imposed rate would be $1.19 if I round up.
But your statement here is that it would impose an interim tax rate of $1.
So
Which is
before the
correct.
common level of appraisal, so you have a,
I understand that.
okay.
I understand that.
After the common level of appraisal, we'd be looking at $1.19 for Belvedere. I'm just taking the first one on my list.
But you still haven't explained, so just to pick on Eden, since I have land up there.
Okay.
The 56.87% change in the town rate from which rate? From the current rate?
The current rate, 0.86,
You're saying?
would be up to
I
$1.30.
don't believe, okay, so first of all, I don't believe that's correct. I don't think when you go to the minimum $1 rate from the rates that we're existing at right now, I don't know who the business manager or accountant is.
I am.
You are. I don't believe that the legislation allows for that. I believe that when you go to that rate.
So when I take $1
Yeah,
and I divide it by Eden's common level of appraisal of 73.8%,
sure.
0.738, I come up with $1.355 would be the tax rate, just for the elementary schools.
Right.
There's still the tax rate for the high school to tag on to that.
And you're saying that basic formula fits for every single month. So
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify that these
That's okay.
numbers were at least fairly representative of what would happen.
They
So-
seem huge.
Right, no, and they should seem huge. So what I want to say is this, that every year since Act 60, we've gone through a similar push me, pull you sort of problem. You folks are in the hot seat, not blaming you. I don't know where the legislators are this evening. They're not here. That's clear to everyone. And for all these years, and I'll just pick on the last 4 or 5 years because this is the last half dozen years, let's say, when these problems began to be clear, and when they were developing the long-term average weight daily membership, it's Act 127, if I'm right. When they were developing that, they were told this was going to happen. They were told there were unpredictable, unintended consequences to all of this, and that it would hit some of the groups like ours the hardest, and that they would deal with that when they got there. And over the last 4 years, they've repeatedly refused to deal with it, and they've put Band-Aids on it. And then we had COVID, and we had lots of Band-Aid money. And we could buy, some districts are buying down their tax rates with their reserve funds, which they put aside because they know their fields are going to hell in a handbasket, or they need a new roof on the gym that's going to cost them $800,000. They know these things are coming. But the state, the legislators have forced our hands repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. And I appreciate what you say. We've got their attention. But they have the attention span of gnats and goldfish. Honest to God. Okay, so by way of disclosure, I work for a lobbyist. I do reporting and research. I've been watching them develop the yield bill. I've been paid to watch the Zooms. Yes, it's painful, but I do it for a living. To watch the Zooms of this, the latest thing is there's going to be a public education funding design team. Okay? That's the bill you're talking about. They're not fixing anything this year. They're not fixing anything next year. At the very earliest, in January 26th, they'll get a report from the bills that you guys are not misrepresenting, but making seem a little golder than they are.
Actually, what I'm talking about with the bill that's down there now, when I read through it the other night in the middle of the night, I was, I'm being taped, right?
Yeah.
I had a nightmare. Have you seen the committee they're putting together to oversee it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But again, even though there'll be a laundry list of proposed levers and changes and alternate tax schemes and this and that in the study design, it's still a study, it's still a task force. They're not fixing a bloody thing. We've got their attention. The best way to keep getting their attention is to keep throwing these budgets back in their face every year until they change it. And they will not change it if you let up. And I'm sorry it's going to be painful. And I'm sorry that this coming May, when these budgets, and there's going to be a bunch that fail over the next week and a half. When it happens, they will write a bill and they will adjust it. And these numbers won't mean anything anymore because they will not be able to impose those types of changes on us if enough budgets fail. And I'm just saying, I am telling you, this thing is completely out of their hands. I'm going to read a quote, if I may, from Senator Brock, from the floor of the Senate. And this sums the whole thing up. This was during the H-850 debate, which was the bill that extends out the long-term average weighted daily membership pain 5 years instead of 1. Senator Brock says we need to reboot that study. He's referring to that study that they did a few years ago, the Blue Ribbon Commission. Back in 2011, it was the last time they had a study to fix this, by the way. Do it right, take a look at all the taxes in a logical way so that we have something not just that makes sense, but something that works. Right now we have a tax system as far as education funding. I defy you, any one of you, to get up and truly explain it to the voters at town meeting day. And I pity you folks for having to try to do this every year. Because when you have a tax system that's so convoluted, as difficult to understand as ours, that uses the coefficient of dispersion in terms like yield that have no meaning to most Vermonters, including, frankly, many of us, we need to make it so that every Vermonter can understand how we raise revenue for spending in a logical way, and in a way that doesn't have an adverse impact on all the other taxes and revenue sources that we have. We have to do this once and do it right. This time we need to finish it. Do not let up on these people. They are failures by definition. All they care about is getting reelected. They're not getting rich, so all they care about is keeping their seats. This is the time to cancel. This is the time to, again, vote no. And I know it's going to be a mess. It's going to be painful for you folks. That's what we got to do.
I'd just like to counter that it's going to be painful for the kids, for my kid.
We'll come together and we'll come together and we'll protect the kids. But you know what? If we say that every single year, then it'll never get fixed. The pain has to be for the legislators. We need to throw it back at them. And if we keep accepting their failures just to protect the kids, then we will fail the kids worse than ever.
So,
Guaranteed.
thank you. I appreciate that everybody needs a voice, and I get it. But this is a budget informational meeting, so I want to make sure if people have questions about the budget that's been presented and being presented, that there's an opportunity to actually respond to those too. Yeah, it's a political hot button, but right now we've got a school to run next year and we need a budget to do it. So are there questions on the budget?
How would you change it if we vote no?
I don't know. I don't know. There is no plan. When the committee came together, they said, let's look at 500. We looked at 500. We saw the services that would be impacted adversely. We also have new information since the original budget was approved, like an extension on the liquidation period, the time you actually have to finish spending all the money from ESSER. So there were a couple things in the budget for facilities that we can now use those ESSER funds, as long as we get it started by September. Great. We pulled that out. Didn't impact services. David had new knowledge about 3 teachers who were retiring. Great. We made that change because we knew it didn't impact services. We are doing some changes with Waterville. We have an opportunity to actually pilot a program and see how it benefits pre-K, and we can save about 70 grand by doing that. Great. We pulled that out. Worked very hard to not adversely impact the services. Again, there's no new investments added in. Everything that's happening today is what is hoping to be continued, except for a lot of the ESSER funded stuff. Only 3 crucial positions are moving forward into the 4 elementary schools. I mean, I can preach all day. I'm very proud of these guys. They do a wonderful job.
Well, if you had the same amount of money as you did last year, without any change in the tax rates for us.
So I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah, but is
The
that-
same amount of money,
is that where you're
the
at?
tax rates are changing.
No, I'm saying,
Oh.
if you spend the same amount of money as you did last year, aside from the tax rate issue, is that where your budget is? Are you close to a level funded budget in this proposal?
Are we close to a level funded budget? No, because we're continuing the same investments. We're not adding investments. It's the same investments, but inflation is impacting that.
No, I understand that. What about what investments?
Do you guys want to talk about what's going on in your schools? I mean, you've got general instruction, you've got student services, you've got curriculum development, you've
What
got,
are costs? You said investments.
those are investments. You can
Okay.
interchange the term investment with,
So if the
Okay.
state failed you,
How are you going to?
if the state failed, let's just say let's turn the whole thing upside down. If the state failed you and didn't come up with what you think you were going to get for your long-term weighted average daily membership per pupil public education spending dollar, and you had to rely on last year's exact dollar figure, what would you cut? How many RIFs would it be? So that's what you have to look at.
Oh,
You
we're
have to decide how you would survive sucking inflation right up into the budget.
I can tell you that's
what we have
about
to decide.
$1.3 million.
Well, it's going to come to that. It's going to come to that. We either start doing it sooner than later or not. So the state's failing us in so many ways that you folks are forced to do a budget. And I'm talking about
You're
the
asking
budget.
what would cut. I'd like to ask
Oh, so if there's
the
someone who wants to,
principals.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, what would be lost in our curriculum director?
That lady was first.
I was just gonna say, she has.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but you just said something very important and pithy, and I want to catch it.
Sure.
And that is that this budget, revised whatever, has nothing new in it, but rather last year's activities, investments, programs have increased in cost. In effect, it's last year plus increased cost equals what you're proposing, not 7 new things. That, to me, that's very important. I don't really see that clearly spelled out here, because when you see an increase like this, the assumption most of us jump to is there's all sorts of new stuff going on. So just the way you said it really caught my attention. It seems to me you want to capture that in explanation. So I don't have to respond to that. I just wanted to make sure that's what I understood.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if to talk about what 1.3 million in cuts would mean to schools and operations, I think is, anyone want to start?
Dylan LaFlamme, Facility Director for Lamoille North. I think, if we needed to look at serious cuts, we're looking at a 3% increase in facilities right now when we're looking at 8% increases to fuel oil, electricity. Custodial supplies are almost 12% at this point. So we've already sucked up a lot of those increases to try to level fund as close as we could, and it's really hard to do. We'd be looking at weekend support. So it would be no more custodial support for weekend events, after school events after 5:30. So it's going to hit athletics, it's going to hit any of our rec department activities, it's going to hit any of the uses of our buildings outside of K through 12 education.
If you had to cut 500,000.
So if we had to cut 500,000, I'd have to sit down and crunch the numbers, but that would likely mean we'd have to, at this point, our budget, like every line item that wasn't a person, is actually level funded from last year's. Every line item for every supply and course for people to take and all that stuff. So the cut to 500,000 would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 people getting cut, 6 jobs getting cut. And the impact would be substantial. It would be 6 less adults in the building every day, in a building that already feels like there's not enough adults to manage all of our kids. But if we had 6 fewer adults, obviously we'd have to think hard about exactly which jobs get cut, but it would mean that there are considerably larger class sizes, less people available to provide remedial services for kids that are behind in reading or math, less people available to provide behavioral support. Those would be the types of cuts. That would be a big change if we had to lose 6 positions. And that's just a ballpark guess to get to 500,000. It might actually be 7, depending on the exact amount of money each person is making.
So one of my favorite sayings when I'm doing the budget is you can't do more with less, you can do less with less. And as we've, for the last few years, I would say we have kept our budget for supplies, anything that's material. It has been basically level funded, but because of the cost of inflation, we're getting a whole lot less for what we had before. And we're doing it, and we're working hard to keep the budget as tight as possible. And to meet our kids' needs every day. Currently, Kat mentioned the mental health crisis. We have kids in crisis, and we're working every day, and we come in every day, and we want what's best for them, and we're doing what we have. If we have Hyde Park, if we have to cut any more positions, we currently have classes of up to 25 children. It would mean that my littles, I think my kindergarten class is 15 or 16. Right now, I can't put 2 kindergartens together and have 32 kindergarten kids. Our classes are increasing in size. We are keeping our numbers down as far as, because teachers, cost money. We also, I would say, one of our drivers is we have been able to keep teachers a long time. We don't have a lot of new teachers, and our cost for insurance as well as salaries go up, but we have a mature staff. We have people that can handle classes of 25. So it's been, I don't know what we do. I couldn't lose any more classroom teachers, or we would have classes of maybe 30 kids.
I'm the principal at Waterville Elementary. We're the smallest school in the district. And it would mean people, it would mean positions, and I already have a pretty bare bones staff. So again, it would be really large class size, loss of support, mental health, intervention support for kiddos that need a little extra help. It would devastate really my programming and my ability to really serve kids in my school.
You already, Jan, have mixed grades. So 1, 2 is together, 3, 4. So you are already maximizing use of space.
Hi, I'm Betsy Goodman. I'm the principal at Eden Central School. I would have to just go along with what folks have said. We would have to increase class sizes We have a range of class sizes in Eden. I've had 27 students to 9 students, and it changes. And so when you get rid of a position, a grade level position, then you are going to look at class sizes of 30, because if you have to combine, that would change. And having taught for 25 years, the class size is one component, but our class complexion is a very different consideration. When we talk about students with certain challenges and mental health issues, then that student may need more than another student. And so we have to also think about class complexion and what our students are bringing in every day and our ability to provide the services that they need.
Can I just add something to what you're saying? So we talk a lot about mental health. I don't know that this room of people understands what that really means. We have therapeutic settings that have closed their services off to certain grades. So for example, Laraway, great partner for us. They do not serve elementary school students anymore. So who is serving those students? We are serving those students through expertise that really isn't fully developed. We are not psychologists. We have another day program that is very close. It's called East Meadow. They have a 6 to 9 month wait list. This is new. We don't know what to do about the mental health pipeline. What we're trying to do is make the educator pipeline more robust. Our educators are doing all of it. And this is new. This is, I think we need to do a really good job at explaining to people what the mental health crisis looks like. We don't have anyone else to serve our kids. And our guidance counselors are not just serving our students, which is really what the job is. They're serving the parents and caregivers. And that's a wonderful thing, but it adds to their capacity and limited capacity at that. Thank you.
So if I can interject here just for 2 seconds. Beth Ann made a really good comment when she came in and I met her at the door. You folks asked what our plan B is. Well, you've just heard what this board is going to end up considering as plan B. Okay, so you've heard it live. So what isn't being said right now is these folks come out of elementary school with a 30-person class size. They go over and meet our administrator for the middle school, and then they come over and meet our high school. So we had a problem during COVID. We went totally remote. That was under an emergency situation. Everybody knows students fell behind. So now we got to sit down as a board and as a public and say, okay, so we vote the budget down, we pay the upfront money to send a message to Montpelier. So we send that message to Montpelier on the back of a bunch of elementary school students. And as they fail, they then come up to the middle school. We're going to have to ask for even more money for the mental health issues at the middle school and high school levels. And so do we send a message to Montpelier? We're trying to, obviously. But if we send it this way, we fall farther behind than we were in COVID. So however you want to look at it, we're going to pay.
Well, I really appreciate everybody who just spoke, and I know to some degree. I'm playing the bad guy here on purpose, and I don't mean to trick you. I don't mean to deceive you. All of everything that was just said should have been spoken into the ears of legislators who are supposed to be dealing with this. And they've left us with only, thank you, they've left us with only the option of refusing our budgets. They don't show up. They don't listen to this, or at least when they do, they don't hear it. I've sat and watched these committees, and they'll have somebody from the head of the superintendents or the head of the principals association, but they don't get into the weeds and say, hey, I got a class with 27, I got a class with 9, you take a teacher away. and I'm going to have a class of 35 and a class of 24. You know, it's that dramatic stuff that they're either not wanting to hear or not listening to. So I did this, I pricked the balloon a little bit to have you say all these things because I want you to understand you need to tell them all of what you just said to me. I'm not here to be the bad guy. I just wanted to prick the balloon and make it clear what they're missing there. Now listen, they are just playing games right now.
So maybe you need to, not vote it down, you might want to vote them out. I mean, hello, why do the kids need to suffer? Because we have idiots in Montpelier. Thank you.
I do want to make one thing perfectly clear. The board, everything you guys donate in there, thanks for all you do. I really do. I don't want to think any negative in there. Principals, don't know most of you, know a couple of you. Met Hyde Parks, haven't met Johnson's yet, but the other ones maybe. The thing I want to say is, if we don't keep this civil, I mean, cutting teachers, whatever, when you do this in here, and I guess apparently this is my fault too. If you ask the people if they had better ideas or something when you were doing a budget in here, so facilities manager, I don't know this for a fact because I was never part of it. Do all the schools buy their fuel in one place? Do we buy all our supplies together? They said they were going to. Here's something that you guys may not know. The exchange rate between US and Canada. Don't want to support out of Vermont, but the price is big time different. Most of the companies are going that way to buy their stuff. 35, 36, 40%. It's a big deal. Came from Vermont, went up there for Paples and come back. Sometimes when you get to a point, and Johnson went through this when a board just walked out. They were going to build a new school, town got it, been through this, seen it, and everybody got together when the board walked out and everybody stepped up. I am not college educated. I just graduated from high school. The rest is all hard knocks. I'm just saying, before everybody gets frustrated and goes to no point, if the people vote no, don't hate them for it. And I don't mean hate, that's the wrong word. Don't think they don't understand. They probably weren't properly explained it. Because, really guys, how many people are we talking in elementary? This is it. For a budget like this is it. It is what it is. But what I'm trying to say is don't feel that anybody's against you. If they cut a teacher or whatever, we've been through that road before. There's a lot of other things you can do before you get to that point. Just brainstorm, so many from each town, have the town put the people up if you want to do it, have them come and just talk to you what you can do. There may be something out there that you don't know. I don't know, and maybe help you guys out. But if they say no, don't take it as a negative, because I've heard a lot of good things about schools, and yeah, I don't think it's that way. And this is my last thing and I'm leaving, but anyways, I just want you guys to know that it's been very nice to have a civil combination, no screaming, no hollering, and nothing negative about teachers or this one does this, because that doesn't amount to anything. So I just want to thank you guys for my 2 bits. There you go. I promise I'm done. If I do, don't be.
Thank you.
I'm Diana Osborne. I'm a Johnson resident. I did close to a decade on the school board. My primary career was as a teacher. My secondary career, actually my tertiary career, is as a paramedic. I also was a small business owner in Johnson for a while. Voting no on this budget does not send the message that you think. Voting no on this budget is personal. It's taking up your issue with the legislature and you're taking it out on our kids. Okay? It is personal because you're telling these people that the hard work that they've done to develop a responsible budget is not respected. You know, if you have an issue with inflation, voting no on this budget is not going to fix inflation. Okay? If you vote no on this budget, it's not going to send the message to the legislatures that you think it's going to. Okay? If you vote no on this budget, it's going to hurt our kids. You know, it's going to hurt our schools. It's going to weaken the system. It's not going to strengthen the system. If you would like to change the system, There's way more effective ways to do that than voting no on this budget. And rather than me tell you what those ideas are, you know, I think you're on the right track when you're saying look further afield, like maybe look to Canada for pricing, stuff like that. You know, the number one driver is salaries and benefits. Have you done any work to help try to get Medicare for all? You know, or if we decrease the health insurance costs, that would do more for this budget than almost anything. So the health insurance cost for our teachers is a major driver for this budget. And if you want to send a message, you need to promote an alternate health insurance model. That's going to change the system more than voting down on this budget. You know, and I totally agree with you. Our property taxes are insane. The model is broken. You know, voting no on this budget is not going to fix the system. It's not going to change your property taxes that much. In fact, if you vote no on this budget, you're going to pay more taxes next year. If you want to fix the system, fix the system. Don't take it out on these people, and don't take it out on our kids. You know, and I'm sorry to get a little worked up over this, but I just feel like, you know, the thing is being misunderstood, and there's propaganda out there that's just plain wrong. Being told your taxes are going to go up 23% if you vote yes on this, not true. Okay, and you know, depending on how you interpret the numbers, you can twist them to say anything you want. But if you're fed up with the system, if you think the whole thing's costing too much, voting no on this is not going to fix the problem. You got to work at the system repair. My 2 cents.
Budget questions? More questions about what's happening in the school? We have our district leaders here.
I have a quick question now that she brought up the insurance issue. How much is the insurance increase for next year?
So, let me see, where is that slide? So the insurance company, I lost track of where all my slides are now. Did I pass it? The insurance company asked for a 16.5% increase in the health insurance. That the schools across the state work with the Vermont School Boards Insurance Trust, and it's been very good for years. And they work with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then for last year and this year, well, this current year and this coming year, they've been double digit, and this coming year it's a 16.5% increase.
Is that higher than what it's been in the past years?
Yes, significantly higher. It's been in the 10% range.
Right.
And it's being mitigated a little bit in this budget by fewer people taking family plans and fewer people participating.
Is there a buyout for people that do not want to take our insurance?
There is, as long as they don't have a spouse getting the benefit somewhere else in the state of Vermont education system. Yeah, there is.
And I just want to add, for clarity's sake, for anybody who maybe doesn't fully understand how the benefits work, but that is negotiated at the state level. We do not negotiate that.
We get a bill.
At our district. We get a bill, so that is not something that is within our local board control. That's
Do we
probably
negotiate that with the teacher's contract with
No.
them? Or
No, not anymore.
it's 100%
So,
through the
so
state
there's actually an employer commission at the state level. And this is probably another area where there's some broken legislation. But they were supposed to go to collective bargaining here this month and work through negotiation. And the framework is so broken, they actually had to extend the existing arrangement 2 more years so that they could work on the larger framework. So, you know, again, it's another area where there's the system is broke. We don't have local say on our benefits. And
many years, well, not that many, but many years ago, I was on the school board, and we actually looked into self-insuring for the district. And it was a very interesting thing, and I don't know how that would work these days because we've grown. But maybe insurance is something to investigate. It's a driving, I'm a trustee as well, and it's a driving factor for towns as well, is insurance is an issue.
I think if we're done.
If there's nothing else, and I encourage you folks, please ask. We're sitting here. Deb is awesome at what she does, putting numbers together. She keeps track of it all. We've got our administrators sitting right there for the elementary schools. We're here. And if not, we'll, okay. That's okay. Nope, that's okay.
I'm Lois Fry, and I've been sitting listening, and I've been to all the other meetings. And one of the things that I hear as a driver of the increase is the mental health issues that have evolved over the last number of years, especially exacerbated by the COVID time. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to get the state to split that out somehow so that it is not a part of the school budget. The teachers shouldn't have to be doing that kind of thing. And to me, that's one of the major problems.
It is a recommendation that has gone to the legislature to either start funding separately from the education fund, mental health that's happening in the schools, or to fix the problem, which is services unavailable in our communities.
Okay, if there's no other questions, then we will call it a night. Thank you very, very much for coming. We like the questions, obviously. And if you choose to come to a school board meeting, we're here.
I especially want to thank those of you who actually came to a meeting to ask questions and get answers. That's obviously the best way to do it. And I appreciate the fact that you've all been kind and civil and thoughtful. And thank you. Thank you for coming.
Pat, will you also, you know, if you go home and you're looking at these and say, I don't get it, dclark@lnsd.org. I will do my best to answer your questions without going down the rabbit hole. So please don't hesitate to email me or call me tomorrow at my office. I am there.
I know, I was thinking, shoot, I wonder if he can tell.